Welcome to MWH Constructors and Sladen Safety Orientation for 2020. Today, we will be going over our safety culture and Safe Start program. At MWH and Sladen, workplace safety is the first priority for us. We value the safety, health, and quality of life of each person on all our projects. Our company goal is 0 incidents. The 3 A's of safety are attitude, awareness, and action. We expect you to come to work with a good attitude, stay aware of your surroundings, and are prepared to take the necessary actions to prevent unsafe acts and conditions from occurring. At MWH, we have 5 core values that are integral to our company culture. Make a difference, be accountable, be a team, build customer partnerships, and act with integrity. Safety of our employees, our subcontractors, and clients is of utmost importance to us. Under the core value, be a team, the first bullet point is everyone goes home safe. This point is especially important to all our employees and especially our safety team. Safety culture has 2 basic rules. 1, we do what we say we are going to do at all times. And 2, we do not compromise safety for other priorities. A safety culture consists of shared beliefs, practices, and attitudes that exist within an organization. Culture is the atmosphere created by those beliefs and attitudes which shape our behaviors. Our goal is to always have an injury-free environment. We must shift our mindset to achieve this on all projects and offices. Injury-free environment begins with the mind. By shifting the mind to have a positive input on safety can prevent accidents from happening. Here are some examples of mind shift. It won't happen to me. You can't make everything idiot-proof. We are already safe enough. People are just careless. Safety accountability start with each employee. Each project will have a site-specific safety plan, and everyone needs to be familiar with it. Each project will have a JSA related to each task. JSAs will be reviewed with each employee at the start of the shift. They are important because they are designed to identify hazards of the work, prescribe critical actions to reduce or eliminate hazard exposures, must be reviewed with supervisors prior to assigning anyone to a particular job or task, should be changed if the process or situation changes and new hazards are encountered. The project safety policies establish the minimum requirements that are to be followed by all workers. The basic rules are titled the Golden Rules of Safety. The Golden Rules shall be posted on the safety bulletin board, reviewed, and explained to all new employees. Endangerment, knowingly placing yourself, a fellow worker, or subordinate in a situation of imminent danger will not be tolerated. Permit to work, Before conducting work that involves confined space entry, work on energy systems, ground disturbance, where buried hazards may exist, or hot work in potentially explosive environments, may not proceed without a fully executed permit to work. Confined space entry. Entry into a confined space cannot proceed until all permit perimeters have been met and all personnel are trained. Working at heights. Working at heights of 6 feet or greater above a lower level cannot proceed without 100% fall protection. Driving safely. All categories of vehicles, including self-propelled or project equipment, must not be operated unless inspected and operated by a trained person. Energy isolation. Any isolation of energy systems, mechanical, electrical, process, hydraulic, and others cannot proceed without safety measures and an authorized permit. Lifting operations. Lifts using cranes, hoists, or other mechanical lifting devices will not commence until a written plan of authorization is in place. Ground disturbance. Work that involves a man-made cut, cavity, trench, or depression in the Earth's surface formed by earth removal cannot proceed without a permit, protection, and a competent person. Disciplinary actions will be applied to those individuals that fail to follow the golden rules. There is a zero tolerance policy applied to these rules. Your project team will discuss in detail disciplinary actions. Here at MWH in Slayton, eye protection, hard hats, task-specific gloves, work boots, and high visibility clothing are 100% at all times. There are other task-specific PPE that's required, and your project team will discuss these items with you. Equipment and PPE inspections are very important. It is the duty of each employee to inspect their PPE prior to each use, check their work area at the start of each shift, and tag and remove defective tools. Other inspections will be discussed by the project team. When it comes to hazardous communications, it is important that you understand OSHA Global Harmonized System, maintain the site inventory list of chemicals, ensure all employees are properly trained in GHS, keep safety data sheets on site, hold safety briefings prior to use of hazardous chemicals, and legibly label containers. Also, when it comes to hazardous communication, contractors must have procedures for accidental release, provide employees with information on chlorine and sulfur dioxide, provide step-by-step information to all employees on emergency evacuation, and must be aware of all chemicals being used on site. As everyone knows, a clean job site is a safe job site. Housekeeping shall be performed daily by all employees and subcontractors. It is important to keep your work area neat, clean, and orderly. Clean up your work area and your tools as you go. Stacked materials must be racked, blocked, or interlocked to prevent sliding. Remove nails from scrap or reusable lumber. Put scraps, trash, and other waste in covered containers. Keep oily rags, combustible debris in covered, labeled metal containers. And dispose of waste at frequent intervals. Fire extinguishers are very important to have. It is important to inspect and train employees on the use of fire extinguishers in the event of an emergency. To operate a fire extinguisher, use the PASS system. P for pull the pin, A, aim at the base of the fire, S for squeeze the trigger, and S, sweep back and forth, at the base of the fire. Falls are one of the leading causes of fatalities and injuries in the construction industry. It is important to understand our policies and be trained on the safe use of all fall protection. Anytime working 6 feet or above, some type of fall protection is required. Here at MWH in Slayton, we only use self-retracting lanyards as part of our complete fall arrest system. When it comes to disciplinary actions, the first offense, a minimum of 3 days without pay, and second offense is termination. Holes can be very dangerous depending on the size and location. Any hole greater than 2 inches must be covered, secured, and marked. This is to prevent material from falling through the hole and someone falling into the hole or tripping. Warning tape and barricades are important to mark off work areas. This prevents unwanted individuals from entering a location and getting hurt. All employees need to be familiar with the use of caution and danger tape and how it applies to our work areas. Caution tape helps you to identify the hazard and use caution when entering the area. Danger tape means do not enter the area without permission and contact a supervisor on barricade signs to get specifics and find out when it is possible to enter.
Ladder safety. Ladders are a key part of our day-to-day operation. They allow us to access work areas that otherwise we won't be able to. There are various types of ladders, and knowing how to use them is just as important as picking one up for the task. For this particular example, we have extension ladders. Extension ladders need to extend 3 foot above the working area and need to be secured. We need to maintain obstacle-free areas around the top and at the bottom. Extension ladders need to have an appropriate angle 4-to-1. Do not overload a ladder. Use a hoist to lift equipment. Use 3 points of contacts at all times. For A-frame ladders, make sure that you do not use the top 2 rungs and do not use a step ladder in the folded position as a lean-to ladder. As a reminder, aerial lifts are preferable to working from a ladder. Scaffolds are work platforms that allow us to reach a height for us to perform our work safer. Unlike ladders, scaffolds are a work platform that needs to be properly installed and inspected on a daily basis. Those who use the scaffold need to be familiar with the use of a scaffold and how to inspect a scaffold. Yellow, red, green scaffold tagging system must be used at all times. All affected personnel shall be trained to recognize scaffold hazards. A competent person must inspect before each shift. Scaffolds over 6 feet in height shall have a standard guardrail, midrail, and toe boards. Remove loose tools, materials, and equipment resting on the scaffold deck before moving the scaffold. Synthetic or natural rope shall not be used as a scaffold guardrail. Formerly known as aerial lifts, MUPs are an equipment that we frequently use as mobile platforms to reach heights that ladders and scaffold will not reach. All employees who use MUPs will need to be properly trained and need to inspect the MUPs daily. A couple key points for MUPs are the following. Trained and authorized operators only. Never exceed the load limit. Stand with both feet on the floor. Use safety harness on all lifts. Secure safety chain entry gate prior to operating. Do not climb on the rails or the edges of the basket. Heavy equipment will be used on every project, possibly on a daily basis. Equipment will vary in size and type. Ensure to make eye contact whenever you are walking behind equipment. If not, this can lead to a major accident. Always be aware of the backup alarms on all equipment. For additional safety, we need to make sure of the following. Only qualified authorized operators. Seatbelts must be worn at all times. Follow the job site posted speed limit. Generally, it's 15 miles an hour. Stay at least 10 feet clearance from any overhead power lines. Must have a working backup alarm and fire extinguisher. Ground guide signal person must be used in if vision is limited. Never exceed the low limit of equipment. Never leave running equipment unattended. Fully lower hydraulic system when equipment is in idle or in park. And once again, always make eye contact with the operator. Forklifts come in various types and sizes. They assist us with lifting heavy objects, materials, and tools during construction. Forklift operators need to be properly trained and know how to use all controls, which also includes inspecting equipment. Do not stand under any loads and make eye contact when walking near a forklift. A couple of key bullet points for forklift safety are the following. Forklifts include fork trucks, tractors, platform lifts, trucks, motorized hand trucks, and other specialized trucks that assist us with lifting. For operators, training certification is required. Never drive up to anyone standing in front of a fixed object when you're operating a forklift. Never walk under the elevated portion of the truck when something is lifted. Maintain a clear view of path of travel at all times or use a guide. Inspect forklift daily and ensure fire extinguisher is in the cab and wheels are chalked when parked on an incline. Do not hook straps directly onto the forks and use appropriate lifting devices as you see on the picture. Forklifts comes in various types and sizes. They assist us with lifting heavy objects, materials, and tools. Forklift operators need to be properly trained and know how to use all controls, which also includes inspecting equipment on a daily basis. When a forklift is being used, make sure that you do not stand under any loads and make eye contact with the operator at all times. A couple of key points for forklifts are: there are various types of forklifts. This includes fork trucks, tractors, platform lift trucks, motorized hand trucks, and other specialized trucks. Operator training certification is required. Never drive up to anyone standing in front of a fixed object. Never walk under the elevated portion of a truck. Maintain clear view of path of travel. Inspect forklift daily and ensure fire extinguishers in the cab. Chalk wheels if you park on an incline, and do not hook strap directly on forks and use appropriate lifting devices. Cranes are a very important piece of equipment on every project. They allow us to safely lift heavy equipment, tools, and other construction materials to safely build our jobs. Working safely around cranes and understanding the safety aspect of them is very important. Here are a couple of key safety bullet points for cranes. Only qualified signal person shall give hand signals. Never ride the hook, sling, or load. Determine the load weight before lifting and check wind conditions. Use taglines on all loads. Mark swing radius with acceptable barriers. Stay at least 20 feet away from power lines. Ensure a crane plan is in place prior to lifting operation. If crane pick meets the critical lift requirements, additional precautions must be taken. Crane operators must be certified after November 10th, 2014. And as a reminder, never stand beneath a suspended load. Rigging is a very important process during a crane operation. Improperly placement of rigging material and or hoisting a load unbalanced can lead to a major catastrophe. In order to ensure that we eliminate these hazards, we need to follow these key bullet points. Only allow qualified, knowledgeable employees to perform rigging tasks. Know the safe working capacity of all rigging and equipment. Do not exceed rigging lifting capacities. Always maintain safe work distances from energized power lines and equipment. Ensure all rigging has labels and ID tags clearly displaying its capacity. Remove rigging from service immediately if defective, and keep your hands off of suspended loads whenever possible. As a reminder, never stand beneath a suspended load. One other item that is very important is that we cannot use any China-made rigging. Electrical safety is very important. We use electricity on all our projects to power our tools and equipment. Electricity can be very dangerous, especially with higher voltage equipment. If you do not use cords, receptacles, and spider boxes properly, it can be a serious safety concern. You cannot see electricity until it's too late, so make sure you pay close attention to the following. All extension cords must have grounding conductors that are functional. Electrical cords must not be fastened with staples hung from nails or suspended by wire. Do not tamper with electrical wiring and equipment unless qualified to do so. All equipment that is not double insulated must have a functional grounding conductor. Ground fault circuit interrupters, GFCIs, must be used at all times. This can be a life-saving device if it is used properly. As a reminder, only licensed, authorized electricians may work on electrical systems, and damaged cords and tools must be removed immediately from service. The misconception that lockout-tagout is just for electrical equipment is incorrect. Lockout-tagout is meant for all equipment that needs to be put out of service in order for someone to work on it safely without the risk of it being turned on and causing harm. Lockout-tagout can be applied in many different ways to various types of equipment. Here are a couple of key safety bullets. Lockout-tagout protects personnel from the release of kinetic or stored energy. All personnel applying lockout-tagout must be properly trained and documented. Tags and/or locks will be attached on all energy isolating devices and stored energy sources. All personnel affected by the locked tagged equipment will be notified prior to the application of lockout-tagout. Affected workers will be notified before locks and tags are removed. Never work on a live energized panel without following lockout-tagout procedures. Each lock shall be removed only by the employee who installs it. Hot work is related to any work that creates any sparks or the potential of causing a fire. Taking special precaution to such activity is very important. If you don't, it can lead to a fire and possible harm to yourself or others. Having the right fire extinguisher, fire blanket, and PPE while performing hot work is very important. If welding, cutting cannot be conducted safely, the work should not be performed. Hot work permits are required in areas where flammable, combustible liquid, gases, or solids are present and/or could be generated. Hot work permit precautions include but are not limited to atmospheric testing, removal of combustible materials, posting a fire watch, fire extinguishers, wearing the proper PPE, notifying emergency service. Additional precautions must be taken when welding stainless steel. Additional safety requirements for hot work include placing signs, shields, barricades to prevent unintentional flash exposures to other workers, keep floor swept clean for a radius of 35 feet, use flash back arrestor to prevent gas cylinder ignition, ground electrical welding machines. Welding and cutting can be particularly dangerous in confined spaces. Prevent sparks and hot metals from falling from elevated positions. All of our projects will require some form of excavation and some will vary in depth. Understanding the safety aspect behind trenching excavation is very important. Having utility locates prior to digging is very important since there is no telling what can be below the ground. Calling 811 or 311 depending where you are located before beginning the digging operation is very important. Plan ahead in order to ensure you have proper access, protective system, and rescue equipment before you begin an excavation. Any excavation deeper than 5 feet, which is most states, will require some form of protective system. These are additional safety requirements for trenching and excavation. Egress must be provided every 25 feet if the trench is deeper than 4 feet. Slope, bench, shore, or shield if the trench is deeper than 5 feet. Spoils or overburden must be placed at least 2 feet from the edge of excavation. Keep vehicles and generators away from the edges as carbon monoxide may accumulate in the bottom of the trenches. Daily inspection by a competent person must be performed on all trenching and excavations. Excavations may pose a fall hazard. If deeper than 6 feet, fall protection measures may be necessary. Confined space can be very dangerous work and should be taken very serious. Planning must be done ahead of any confined space work, and a JSA should be developed and reviewed by every team member prior to start of the work. Along with planning, a rescue procedure should be in place, along with notifying the local fire department to make them aware of the work that is in place in the event that self-rescue is not possible. Training for confined space is very important. Having untrained staff in a confined space can be very dangerous. Here are a couple of safety bullet points for confined space. A confined space is large enough for personnel to enter, has limited means of access and egress, is not designed for continuous human occupancy. Confined space entry permit or non-permit certificate must be completed and posted near the space entrance for review. Example is tanks, vessels, boilers, exhaust ducts, sewer pump stations, excavation tunnels, and wet wells. Confined space entrance attendants and entry supervisors must complete sufficient training to acquire the understanding, knowledge, and skill necessary for the safe performance of the assigned duties. Each confined space entrant and attendant must attend a pre-entry briefing conducted by the entry supervisor. Ensure all proper PPE is in place prior to accessing confined space. Air monitors must be calibrated and bump tested prior to use. Hazards of a confined space include oxygen deficient atmosphere, oxygen enriched atmosphere, flammable atmosphere, toxic atmosphere, temperature extremes, engulfment hazard, equipment such as machinery or electrical. Silica has been a very important topic in recent years since the implementation of 29 CFR 1926-1153. What is silica? Silica is a common mineral that is found in construction materials such as sandstone, concrete, brick, and mortar, which we use for building materials. What does the standard require? Essentially, what the standard requires is for employers to limit workers' exposure to silica and to take other steps to protect employees from the hazards of silica. These are the simple activities that we perform on all our projects, in which these pictures show what not to do. In conjunction with the silica awareness, we require to have Table 1. Table 1 lists the most common tasks and effective dust control methods in construction, such as using water to keep dust down from getting into the air or using a vacuum or PPE such as respirators. All projects must have a written exposure plan per the OSHA requirement. The written exposure plan will list activities that will be performed on site that cause the silica dust to enter the atmosphere. This plan also will have a description of Table 1 that will show how to prevent exposure to employees. Our employees must be trained on this requirement. What is a written exposure plan? It is a written plan identifying all the tasks that are being performed on the project that have the potential of exposing employees to silica dust. It would also list the control measures to be taken and list all the competent persons. Construction employees covered under this standard must understand the written exposure plan, know who the designated competent persons are, will be restricted to limited housekeeping practices to prevent silica from entering their system, offer medical exams, and train employees on the silica awareness on the project, and records will be kept on the project. MWH Sladen requires all employees and subcontractors to fill out a Safe Start card prior to each shift and for each individual task. A job safety analysis, or JSA, or assessment is a technique used to identify the dangers of specific tasks in order to reduce the risk of injury to workers. The 4 basic stages in conducting a JSA are selecting the job to be analyzed, breaking the job down into sequence of steps, identifying the potential hazards, and determining the preventative measures to overcome these hazards. Additional safety requirements for Safe Start. Before starting the hazard checklist, remember the following prompts. What could go wrong? What could cause it to go wrong? What can we, MWH Sladen, do to prevent it? Keep your checklist with you in the work area until the end of your shift, updating it as needed. Note, if a hazard exists and control measures are not in place, turn this into an improvement and report it accordingly. Remember, nothing is so important that we can't do it safely. If anyone observes an unsafe condition or behavior on a work site, it is imperative that they speak up or report the situation. It can be as simple as reminding someone they need to wear gloves, to tie off properly, or even just politely asking someone if there is a safer way to accomplish a task. One tool that allows us to document this and share it with all MWH employees are Improve-Its. Improve-Its allow us to document and reinforce safe practices. Not only do they allow us to share unsafe acts and corrected hazards with other projects, they also give us an opportunity to share safe working behaviors with other projects. Improve-Its bring new and innovative ideas for safer work. The goal is 1 Improve-Its per project per day. Remember, see something, say something. This is the initiative we have here at MWH Sladen. And as a reminder, everyone has authority to stop work. Our goal at MWH is 0 accidents. By using See Something, Say Something, we are striving to empower every employee to voice their concerns.
Let me introduce you to your MWH Regional Safety Managers. For the West, Luke Talent, the East, Lakeisha Gamage, and Slayton, Lindell Sid. If at any time you have any safety-related questions or comments, please do not hesitate to reach out to your regional.
Thank you for your time and be safe.